What's going on, my Central Units? It's the Sentiment here. So this is my review of Clash of the Champions 1. Before we get to this review, I know you're thinking, yeah, I used to review Clash of the Champions shows in the past, but I deleted them all. I think the last time I review a Clash of the Champions show was almost like 2 years ago, and I said to myself, maybe this segment needs to reboot. So what I did, I delete all my Clash the Champion shows reviews and start it all over again. I know it's dumb, but hey, it's my channel. I can do what I want. So anyway, so today I'm reviewing JCP. That's short for Jim Crockett Promotions slash NWA. Clash the Champions 1. The NWA, they'll soon to become WCW's flagship, super card show, and they did it for 9 years. There's 35 Clash of the Champion shows in the history of, JCP slash WCW, and they stopped it in 1997. And I don't know what the reason why they stopped doing Clash of the Champion shows. I think it has to do with the pay-per-view schedule, because they do like a calendar year pay-per-view schedule, so maybe they just decide to scrap it all together. And here's the backstory. So people talk about the Monday Night Wars, the Reigns Wars between WWF and WCW in the 90s, but they've been feuding since the late 80s. Like they started in 1987 when Jim Crockett Promotions did Starrcade, WWF did the first Survivor Series, and they continue in March. WWF did WrestleMania 4, they did this show, Clash of Champions 1. They stopped doing it in 1989, I think, because I think it's hurting the pay-per-view companies, I think. Don't quote me on it, so that's kind of the backstory. I don't know, it's before my time, I'm 29, not 39 or 49, but anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna review the GCP slash NWA Clash of the Champions 1. So this show was at the Greensboro Coliseum. I think it's right now, it's still called the Greensboro Coliseum. I think it's also the Greensboro Complex in Greensboro, North Carolina, on the 27th of March 1988. By the way, it's on the same day as WrestleMania 4. I reviewed that show months ago. That's known for Randy Savage winning his first of 2 WWF championships. And I'm going to tell you right now, this show is way better than WrestleMania 4, because WrestleMania 4, yeah, one or two good matches on that show, but it was boring. You got a lot of filler. This, they got 5 matches on the card, and also you got 4 championship matches. By the way, this show really put Sting on the map in the main event. We'll get to the main event later on in this review. That's Ric Flair versus Sting for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. I forgot to mention this, and also in January of that year, also still in this rivalry between WWF and you could say GCP slash the NWA, because 1988 was the last year, JCP, because I think they went out of business. They got bought by Ted Turner. JCP became WCW, and the rest is history. And then, yeah, and you know the story. And then 13 years later, WCW went out of business. Anyway, so the attendance of the show was 6,000. I think, yeah, 6,000 at the Greensboro Coliseum. By the way, this is not a pay-per-view. This is a supercar show. It's really funny. Like, I think WWF also did like the main event. Did main event, and then the legacy continued for other companies in the next couple of years. Like TNA did one night onlys. And also right now AEW is doing Battle of the Belts. I kind of like the concept. I wish like WWE do this type of I wish they don't, like, not say scrap all the pay-per-views, just do like do like a half year pay-per-view schedule and do some supercar shows. Keep your big fours like your Royal Rumbles, WrestleManias, SummerSlams, Survivor Series. You can throw Money in the Bank. That's count as the big five pay-per-view, but and just focus on more on doing a supercar show. Anyway, so I think the commentators, I'm trying to find the commentators for the show. I think it was Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross, or maybe it's Bob Caudle. Don't worry, folks. I did watch the show twice. 3 years ago and right now. It's been a long time. What I said in 2020, it's gonna be different in the 2023 standards. So, actually, I'm not gonna say that because I might not remember. This is like 3 years since I reviewed the show. But anyway, so let's talk about Clash of the Champions 1. So the first ever match of Clash of the Champions, and this is a college rules match, and this is for the NWA Television Championship. Mike Rotunda, the future IRS, that's short for Owen I. Shyster. That'll be in the WWF in the 90s, with Kevin Sullivan. Not the Taskmaster. The Taskmaster was in the 90s in WCW. In the corner of Mike Rotunda, because at the time they were part of this group called the Varsity Club, defending the belt against Jimmy Garvin with Precious. Precious is the real life wife of Jimmy Garvin. This is before they end up like doing the Freebirds, with Michael PSAs. That was like 1989. We'll get to those 1989 Clash of the Champions shows in the foreseeable future. So this is a college rules match. So basically it's just 3 5-minute round. I don't like this concept, Like TNA did it years ago in 2016. What's it called? The Grand Slam Championship or the Impact? What's it called? I'm gonna look it up. One second, folks. I think it's called the Grand Slam Championship or the Impact. Not the Impact World Championship. I think it's called the Grand Slam Championship. I think it's trying to find it, folks. I think it's called the Grand. It's got a bit like the Grand Championship. It reminds me of the Grand Championship. I don't like that concept, that Grand Championship. Doing 3 rounds, doing this format. It had no business in professional wrestling. It's okay in boxing, it's okay in MMA, you get like 5 3-minute rounds or 4-minute rounds, but in professional wrestling, you just want to do a singles bout, you win by pinfall or submission, that's it. But anyway, I hate to say this, some people when they do this show's review, they give it like 2 stars. I don't really call it an okay match. It's not completely terrible. For me, I think it was the second worst match of the night for me. The whole bulk of the match is basically just grappling, not a lot of technical style wrestling. You had like 1 or 2 like moves and bumps, but that's just it. The end was a bit rushed. So in the end, you had Kevin Sullivan grabbing Precious, and then Mike Rotunda rolled up Jimmy Garvin for the win and retained the television championship. So, and afterwards, you got in the outcomes Rick Steiner, being down Jimmy Garvin, and then you got Precious, hitting the members of the Varsity Club with I think it was a plank of wood, and then that was it. So, this match, like I said, it's not terrible, but for me, I'm not gonna when I do my overall thoughts and rating of this Clash of the Champions show, I'm not gonna put it in the okay. I'm just gonna put it in the bad. It was just not good. It was rushed. I think it just never got out of its first gate. I don't know what's going on. And by the way, this match at Clash of the Champions 1, I think it's the shortest. This has got to be the shortest match of the show. I think it was about 6 minutes. Like the main event got like 45 minutes. I'll get to the main event later on in this review. But besides that, this was not good. I don't think there's any chemistry between Mike Rotunda and Jimmy Garvin. And I done my research on Precious. Like I said, Precious is the real life wife of Jimmy Garvin, and they're still married to this day, and they got 2 kids. But yeah, it was the I think it this was actually it's not the shortest match. You know, the other match is 3 minutes. I'll get to that match later on in this review. So let's move on to the next match. You know, there's college rules match. Yeah, it's amateur wrestling. It's just never. Yeah, sometimes it's gonna be. Sometimes it's kind of like a hit, and sometimes it might be mostly a miss. But this is kind of like a miss. Anyway, sorry about my rambling. So let's move on to the next match of the show. This is the first of 4 championship matches on the show, and this is for the NWA United States Tag Team Championships. We got the Midnight Express, that is beautiful Bobby Eaton and Sweet Stan Lane with Jim Cornette in the corner, their manager, defending the belts against the Fantastics. That is the team of Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. This was good. I really enjoyed this match. I wish they changed the card around. I wish this match kicked off the show instead of the college rules match between Jimmy Garvin and Mike Rotundo for the television championship. Anyway, I really enjoyed this match. The ending, I'll get to that shortly, was a bit disappointed, but it started out with the brawl between the Midnight Express and the Fantastics, you know. But I really enjoy it. It's fast-paced, a lot of tag team maneuvers. I kind of like it. It's, you know, I checked on Wikipedia. It's 10 minutes long, but for me, I thought it was about 15-20 minutes, but no, it was 10 minutes long. I think there's some chemistry between the Fantastics and the Midnight Express. So in the end, you know, you had one of the members of the Fantastics, I think it was Tommy Rogers or Bobby Fulton, because they're getting sick of the referee because he didn't see the hot tag. So one of them throw the referee Randy Anderson. I forgot to mention this. You know, in the opener, you had Teddy Long, Holla 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 player, refereeing the Jimmy Garvin Mike Rotundo match. It's funny, like both guys end up like becoming characters in professional wrestling in later years. You know, Jimmy Garvin part of the Freebirds, Mike Rotundo became IRS, and then Teddy Long becoming a manager, and then soon to be SmackDown GM. Holla, 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 player. Anyway, so back to the United States Tag Team title match. So one of the members of the Fantastics throw Randy Anderson over the top rope. Jim Cornette accidentally hits, I think it was Bobby Eaton with the tennis racket. So one of the Fantastics did like a cross body to win this match and become the new United States Tag Team Champions. Unfortunately, the ending was disappointed because the other referee came out, did the 3 count, but unfortunately Randy Anderson kind of overturned the decision because one of the Fantastics, you know, like put his hands on the referee, throw Randy Anderson over the top rope. So, yep. So the Midnight Express retained the United States Tag Team Championships via disqualification. By the way, a month later, you know, the Fantastics went on to win the United States Tag Team titles, and really the whole bulk of 1988, you know, the United States Tag Team titles are traded back and forth between the Fantastics and the Midnight Express, and I think the Express, you know, that's the Midnight Express, you know, won the belts at the final JCP event. That's the Great American Bash, the first Great American Bash in the company's history, and then at the final Class of the Year, the Fantastics regain it. So the stranglehold of that belt were between the Midnight Express and the Fantastics. But this match was good. There's another one I'm going to talk about with a good finish. You know, get to that later on. So moving on to match number 3. This is the worst match of the night. So this is a 6-man barbed wire match. We got the Road Warriors, Animal and Hawk teaming up with the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, with Paul Ellering, the manager of the Road Warriors at the time, taking on the Powers of Pain, the Barbarian and the Warlord, with Ivan Koloff and Paul Jones in the corner of the Powers of Pain and the Warlord. It is Ivan Koloff. My apologies, I wrote it wrong, so I'm going to say it again. So, yeah, we've got the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes taking on the Powers of Pain. That is the Barbarian and the Warlord and Ivan Koloff, with Paul Jones in the corner of the Powers of Pain and Ivan Koloff. My apologies. I think the build-up to this, there was a video package of the build-up. You had kind of the build when I think you had the Powers of Pain attacked the Road Warriors. Anyway, so I don't know. They didn't really show you like it's not like right now. You showed like a video package or it lead you what's going on, why they're fighting in the first place. It's very hard, back in the 80s compared to right now. Anyway, so this match, like I said, it was the worst match of the night. The doing a Bob Wire type of match. Yeah, the ring surrounded with barbed wire has no business. I don't like this type of match because first off, you can't really do anything in the ring. It's just whole bulk of the match. I got it short. I feel like it was like fucking 10 minutes long. It was 3 minutes. It's basically just punch, 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 punch. Did I mention punch, punch, punch? I'm trying to keep it short and simple. I think Dusty was bleeding. Anyway, so in the end, the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes got the victory. I forgot to mention this. After the United States Tag Team Title match, you had the Midnight Express, beating down the Fantastics. I think whipping them with the I think it was a belt. I forgot to mention this, folks. My apologies. So anyway, so after the barbed wire 6-man tag team match, the heels got the heat back, and that was it. So anyway, so let's move on to the next match. So the next match, this is for the NWA World Tag Team Championships. We got the Four Horsemen. That is Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard with JJ Dillon in the corner, defending the belts against Lex Luger, the Total Package, and Barry Windham. I think Windham and Luger, I think they are future members of the Four Horsemen. They're still a thing in 1988 because I think this was the last full year of the Horsemen because JJ Dillon and Blanchard and Arn end up leaving the company, end up going to the WWF. And maybe, I think JJ left in 89. I might be wrong about this. It's between 88 or 89 when JJ Dillon left the company. He came back in the 90s, in 1997, but that's another story for another time. Anyway, so this match is really good. I really like this match. I like the despite all that bad finish, I like the United States Tag Team Title match. I like the NWA World Tag Team Title match. Both Tag Team Title matches were good on the show. I really like this match. Like the whole bulk of the match. You had a Blanchard. I'm gonna refer him as Tully and Arn working on Lex Luger, and then working on Barry Windham. I think like Lex Luger. I think people like give Lex Luger some shit. Like some people compare him to John Cena. Like of these wrestling skills. Even though they're not like they don't have the moveset of Bret Hart and Ricky Steamboat and Shawn Michaels and Randy Savage, but they're not great wrestlers, but they're good wrestlers in the ring. But I think like with Tully, Arn, and Barry Windham, they kind of carry Lex to a really good match. I think with the right wrestler in the ring, I think he will like step up his game. Anyway, so in the end, JJ Dillon accidentally costs his his the tag team title belts. He kind of grabbed the chair. I think he accidentally I think it was Windham or Luger kind of pushed. I think it was Arnold Tully. I think it was towards the chair. So yeah. Anyway, Windham and and Luger are the new tag team championships. So it was like both tag team title matches are nearly 10 minutes long. It didn't feel like it was 10 minutes. It felt like it was almost 20 minutes. But I think it was a really good match. Unfortunately, it was the only title change on this show. Or spoiler alert, but it was Arn Anderson. Yeah, I looked it up. It was Arn Anderson. So unfortunately, it never lasts long because the following month, Arn and Tully went on to regain the tag team titles back from Lex Luger and Barry Windham, and then I think Windham turned on Lex Luger. They ended up feuding for a little bit, and that was it. So I think Windham ended up being part of the Four Horsemen. This is very confusing because I think the original Four Horsemen was Flair, Arn, Tully, and JJ Dillon, and then in later years they added Barry Windham and Lex Luger, and then they added Psycho Sid or Sid Vicious. That's another story, another time. Yeah, and the Horsemen became the Yamaguchi was it the Yamaguchi Corporation with Hiro Matsuda, the trainer who trained Lex Luger and Hulk Hogan. Anyway, let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the main event. So the main event, this is for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The Nature Boy Ric Flair defending the belt against Sting. This is Sting's first championship match because he debuted in 1987. He was part of the UWF, not the Earl Abens UWF. That was in the 90s, but I'm talking about that was the original UWF that was owned by Bill Watts. That was anyway. So he debuted in 1987. You know, in JCP, NWA, the future WCW, by the way. And yeah, and this is his first championship match. You know. So yeah, he debuted in June of 1987. So his first pay-per-view match was Starrcade 87 in a six-man tag team match. So I think this match really put Sting on the map. You know, like Sting was kind of like an unknown. And this was testing the waters, you know. This match, my only nitpick about this match, it was a bit boring. It was 45 minutes, man. Holy fuck. No, sorry my swearing. It was 45 minutes long. I was completely bored of it. But the whole, like some bulks of the match, you had Sting working on the back of Ric Flair, and then in the second half of this match, you know, you had Flair working on the leg of Sting, lock him in the figure four leg lock. They were brawling outside the ring. I think this is the best of this is the best of their rivalry. You know, like Sting and Flair fought in historic matches. You know, they fought at the first Clash of the Champion show. They fought at the first. I think they fought at. I know they fought at Great American Bash in 1990, but they fought at the first Monday Nitro in 1995. They fought at the final Nitro in 2001, and also they really the final match together was at TNA in 2011. That was bad because, you know, both guys were way past their prime. I think at the time Ric Flair was 62, Sting was 52. You know, like was Flair's older than Sting by 10 years. Anyway, so I really enjoyed this match. You know, this is like judges. You know, you're not gonna get that in today's wrestling. I think it's something. It might be a hit or miss, but I give them props. You know, they're thinking outside the box. I give credits worth. So anyway, in the end, you know, before the time limit draw, you know, Sting locked Flair with a Scorpion Deathlock. You know. And Flair kind of passed out. You got that 5 when Bret Hart locking the sharpshooter onto Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. This is similar to that. Instead of Flair was bleeding, I thought Flair was bleeding. I don't know if Flair was bleeding in this match. Maybe a bit. I can't remember, but not heavily, but a little bit. But anyway, I think this match really put Sting on the map. You know, before that, I don't think he was going nowhere. He was just kind of unknown. And yeah, you had judges. You know, some of the judges are not really familiar. You know, it's on American TV. Who is the judges? So the judges are actor Jason Hervey and Ken Osman. He's not part of the Osmans. He's not part of the Osmans. You know, with Donnie, Marie, Jimmy Osman. You know that was a band from the 70s, I think. But anyway, the time limits draw, and yeah, Ric Flair retained the title because the judges, you know, scored for, I think it was 2 each or something, I think it was 2 each. So Flair retained the title. I think it's for the best, man. I think it's for the best. You know, if Sting wins the title on the show, yeah, you're creating a new star, but at the same time, I think his first reign was gonna flop. But anyway. It's very funny, like, Sting would win the WCW, or he went on to win the world title, you know, 2 years later at the Great American Bash. And by the way, folks, I will review that show, because July, I will review some classic Great American Bash shows, not just in WCW, but in the WWE. Stay tuned for that. So, anyway, yeah, I think the reason why they did that, I think it's just like Ric Flair is the gatekeeper. You know, it's basically testing the waters of Sting. It's sink or swim. If Sting could hack it to become a future potential, not just a future world champion, but a future main event top player. And I think Sting passed with flying colors. I think, yeah, like I said, I think both guys were protected. Yeah, it's kind of disappointed. People. Yeah, but it's for the best, man. 2 years later, like I said, Flair would drop the belt to Sting, and then Sting will win his first of many world championships in not just in WCW but in TNA years later. But anyway, besides that, I think this was the match of the night. I think Sting and Flair sometimes has some good chemistry. Like the fought in 3 decades or 4 decades, technically 4 decades. The fought in the fought in the fought in the 80s, the fought in the 90s, the fought once in the 2000s. The final Nitro, like I said, and their last match was in the 2010s. So the fought in 4 decades. You got history of their rivalry. I think the two, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I think, in my opinion, the two biggest rivalries the two biggest rivals for Ric Flair has to be Hulk Hogan and Sting, because they fought in decades. Their rivalry spanned decades. In different companies. For Hogan, they fought in WWE. They didn't really fought. Even though they haven't have a match in the WWE, but they still feuding. They fought in WCW, and then again they fought briefly in TNA, but that's not on the same level. Same as Sting. Sting, they fought in both in WCW, and then and they fought in TNA. It spans over the decades. But besides that, I wasn't bad. I wasn't, if I was alive in 1988, yeah, you could be a little bit disappointed, but you could tell that was a star-making performance of Sting. I think Sting was, worth $1 million. Flair made Sting like $1 million. Like he stepped up his A game, and Flair stepped up his A game. So anyway, my final overall rating for the first Clash of the Champions show from 1988, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I almost give it the 4 beans. The only thing, nothing in the okay, but the only two things in the bad for me has to be the opener, Mike Rotundo versus Jimmy Garvin for the television championship in a College Rouge match, and that 6-man barbed wire match. That's the only thing in the bad, but besides that, I think they did step up the A game. Like the two tag team title matches were good, and Sting versus Flair in the main event, and including the fans in Greensboro, North Carolina. I think this was at the time they were hosting, because there was the former event, because Greensboro, North Carolina, they used to host Starrcade, because the previous year they moved it in Chicago. I feel like I want to one day remake that review one day. That's in the foreseeable future. But besides that, I think the crowd in Greensboro, North Carolina, they really enjoyed the whole show. If they did it in outside of North Carolina, outside of the southern parts of America, I don't think they might. I don't know. They probably if they did like somewhere in New York or Philadelphia. Maybe they just don't really. I think they'll get like that lush, harsh reception. But besides that, I think doing it in North Carolina in the South in America was the right call. So anyway, that's my review of JCP / NWA Clash of the Champions 1. What's your thoughts on it? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Smash the like button, click the like, click the bell, subscribe to the Central Man Network on YouTube. Be part of the Central Unit for more wrestling videos and more. Next time I'm going to review Clash of the Champions 2. That will be in June of 1988. Until then, this is the Central Man officially signing out. Check you later. And that's my review of Clash of the Champions 1. Over.